Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Tuesday, April the 9th session in our series on entrepreneurship in Asian high-tech industry. Before I introduce our speaker, I have a couple of kind of administrative technical things. First of all, for everyone who's joining us on Zoom, during the prepared remarks by our guest speaker, if you would put any questions or comments you have in chat, I will make sure that these are addressed in the Q&A part of our session. I apologize to everybody last week because, as I was giving the overview, I had gone into presentation mode on PowerPoint slideshow. And so, of course, I couldn't see the things coming in. So everybody who asked a question last week did not get a response. I apologize. But this week, we should not have that trouble. Also, a couple of points for students who are taking this as a 4-credit course. Make sure you sign the attendance sheet that UFON is going to pass around, because that is the only evidence that you were here in person. And remember, being here in person is one of the requirements for credit. The other requirement for credit is to send me a weekly comment within 2 weeks of the date of the session. So all of this is outlined in incredible detail in the course syllabus. Be sure to get a copy of the course syllabus. So all of the comments from last week will be due by next week, April 16. And the comments for today's session will be due by April 23rd. So make sure you don't get behind. These are due 1 comment per session per week within a couple of weeks of the date of the session. So I'm absolutely delighted to be able to welcome back a good friend from Bangkok who has been a speaker in our series before and who has invited me to Bangkok to speak in his big conference, Dr. Supachai Parchariyanon. And thank goodness you go by Kid. Thank you. So Kid is the CEO of what I think is the biggest business accelerator in Southeast Asia, namely RISE, R-I-S-E. And he's also managing partner of SeaX Ventures, which is a venture capital firm. So RISE is providing help to large corporates and government, as well as being an accelerator for startups. So their aim is to increase the GDP of the entire country by 1% and also help reduce net carbon output by 1%, which is a very impressive macroeconomic scale. They've already had over 2,000 companies go through the RISE Acceleration Program, and these companies now have a cumulative net worth of over $2 billion US. SeaX, the venture capital firm, is investing in deep tech and looking all across Southeast Asia. Portfolio already includes 2 companies that have achieved unicorn status. So SeaX has been around since 2018. RISE started a couple of years before in 2016. Kid is a medical doctor. He also has a master's in bioinformatics, and he has been through the Stanford Graduate School of Business Executive Program. So he has a number of awards. He's been named to a number of prestigious lists, like the Tatler Futurist and also the Prestige 40 Under 40 Award. So for our seminar, Kid is going to talk to us about technology and innovation ecosystems in Southeast Asia. Then after our program ends at 5:50, we'll have some networking and so forth. And at 7 o'clock this evening, we'll have a second program, which is a panel discussion with Kid being in my role and 4 people who are active business people in Southeast Asia. We'll be talking about navigating your ventures in Southeast Asia. So this is a rare opportunity for us to have someone coming here from a long way away to talk to us about the situation right now in one of the major economic blocks of the world. I think, what, 700 million people in Southeast Asia. So, Kid, let me turn over the floor to you and ask you to give your prepared remarks, and we'll talk some more in the Q&A session.
Thank you. Thanks, Professor Dasher. This is a great opportunity to be back here once again. Yeah, thank you again for coming today. This is my pleasure to coming back to Stanford and also meeting all of you today from long way from Thailand. You know how many hours on the flight? Yeah, it's kind of like 18 hours. Yeah, to get here. Yeah, with our amazing group. I'm not come here alone today. So our group from Thailand, can you guys raise your hand? Yeah, so that's all the leaders, business owner, from the multiple industry. Yeah, that can help me answer any questions you guys might have later as well, because they are in a very specific industry. Yeah, so today I think love to share more about Southeast Asia. Anyone here been to Southeast Asia, any country in Southeast Asia before? So now I don't know what to say. You guys should know probably more than me. And why you guys are here? Probably you just want to meet other folks that interested in Southeast Asia, right? Yeah. So as I think about Professor Dasher, sharing a bit about my background as a medical doctor turned serial entrepreneur. Yeah, I did couple of things when I was 18. I sitting in the back of the classroom, just like some of you here, playing my mobile phone. At that point, yeah, I like to trade the stock in the classroom. But the only way to do that with Nokia black and white screen, like 3310, is to get out of the classroom and make a phone call to the brokerage firm. Right? But I turned to my friends who engineer, say, hey, let's build this. Yeah, I built the first mobile stock trading apps for Thailand. And now that application is #1 in the country. The only mistake I did, the huge one, is that I sold it too fast. I should have sold it yesterday. After that, I learned a lot, and then that's why. Yeah, after I sold my second company, which is advertising firm. Yeah, as I was the one who brought Twitter to Thailand, and become the first reseller of Twitter. And after that, sold it to the Japanese corporate in 2013. At that time, it just kind of like midlife crisis. I turned 30. I have some money. Asking myself, should I move to Silicon Valley, like many of you here? Oh, but why stuck here in Bangkok, right? With traffic jams and good food, definitely. Yeah, but then how about the business, right? It's a lot smaller than here. But I thought, if I wanna make more money, probably I should move. But then if I want to make some impact, probably because I born and raised there, probably I should stay and make some impact and still making some money too, right? So that's why coming to our the company called Rise, and that our mission is to help raise 1% of GDP for the entire Southeast Asia, which is crazy mission. And the way that we do it, we not do it alone, but we're doing it with a corporate in Southeast Asia, as well as startup globally, who want to come to Southeast Asia, try to helping them plugging into the ecosystem, launch a new business together, and that be able to increase our GDP. Today, I think the focus, right, it's Southeast Asia. So I think, in my view, I like to share a couple of insights that I see, and then happy to discuss thoughts, and then and also hear your thoughts as well. How do you think about the ecosystem in Southeast Asia, right? Back then, right, this is over 50 years that ASEAN, 10 countries unite together, right? So we had the meeting at World Economic Forum even mentioned us in 2018, right? That ASEAN, after our 50th anniversary, we have something we call the ASEAN Dream. It's just like American Dream, right? If you looking back on the American Dream, the ASEAN Dream, we're talking about connectivity. That is just 6 years ago, right? Connectivity and inclusion, powered by technology. So if the younger people be able to use the technology, right, and they'll be able to change the region. and empower them to do the better things for the region. Fast forward, right, from that Asian dream in 2018, now, like people say, the ASEAN gonna be the new kind of like economic driver, like for the world, right? Because BCG also mentioned that our internet economy, digital economy, gonna grow from 100 billion to almost 1 trillion, by 2030, which is only 4 years away, right? So like, oh no, 6 years away, which is super close, right? So then I think that's why the region is getting hotter and hotter these days. I talk to many corporate, many startup from China, from other region that they want to tap into the region right now. So almost every day, every week, that we talk to them. So you might now, if you're looking at why, right? So you see that our GDP growth for ASEAN is getting quite stable, and also inflation is good, and it's also kind of like the interest rate, right? Is also increased moderately. So this is kind of like the macro economic in Southeast Asia. If you're looking at comparing us to Asian, to other region like India or China, right? I think we kind of very close, like to these top growing region. So probably that's why, like many people also looking at ASEAN, right? And let's dive deeper a little bit in terms of like what are the drivers that make this happen, and also kind of like the challenges that we face, and probably the challenges that many of us here be able to help, to make it better, and also the opportunity that one might find it interesting, and be able to capture that opportunity, in Southeast Asia before anyone else, right? So. So first, we're talking about the driver, the factor that drive this ASEAN economy growing faster. So I think that kind of like three things here that important, right? So first is about the demographic of the ASEAN, right? Because right now, as Professor Dasha mentioned, we almost kind of like 700 million, like twice the size of the US market, right? And then if you're looking at the median age, we also a little bit younger, right? Compared to like 30 years old, compared to 40 in Europe or almost 40 in North America, right? So that younger population have the more forces, like working like 996, right? So 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week, probably more, to change the industry that they are in. So that's the first. I think that's the first driver for the region. And if you look at the breakdown, right? So not all the country has the same number of population. Led by Indonesia, that it has almost the size of the U.S., almost 300 million people, right? And then if you look at the country like Philippines, 100 million as well. Vietnam close to 100 million, right? And then in Thailand around 70 million. So that's kind of like how it break down, into like the ASEAN country, added up to 700 million. The second thing is the digital adoption, right? So I think this is also very important, especially speed up thanks to COVID, right? Speeding up everything. The digital adoption has been kind of like hitting 70%, for the region. Looking at the global number is around 66, so we higher than the global average. And if you're looking at the mobile penetration, it's also a lot, right? In the region, it's almost 130%. Where in Thailand, my home country, is like 150%. So one people holding more than one phone. Me, I'm having two, right? So that's one for work, one for entertainment, or one for work and one for family, for example. And because of that, right? So I think there's so many interesting fact that you can see that the economic growth is happened as a result of digital inclusion and active participation of the digital user, with urban and also the rural people also using this technology. And one thing that I like to share the case study that I think is very interesting for many of you, is that Thai government, in 2016, right? They built I call the unicorn killer, which means there should be some unicorn, like payment unicorn, like PayPal here, right? Every country has its own kind of like the payment company, the mobile payment company. But then, our government is so smart, to kind of like invent what we call PalmPay, which is like the interbank transfer, which you don't need to pay any fee, and it's initiated by the government, right? So it's almost zero fee, to anyone. And this is has the big, very big adoption, because if you want to kind of like go to the rural area, you want to pay for the street food seller, right? So you can do that as well. So this is and using only QR code. Very simple, easy, right? If you see the volume of the transaction, it's like 1 billion, right? And also looking at the number of registration of the people in the country, probably some people might have more than one account, but then that exceeds the number of people in the country. When you go to Thailand, right? You see people on the street food seller be able to accept the payment very easy. No cash. There's still kind of like cash using nowadays. But most of the people, educated people, or the people from those who have mobile phone, nowadays they tend to use this more. Let's say, for example, myself, I go running in the morning. I don't need to bring the notes or coins to buy my water anymore. I just use my mobile to scan. And if you come to Bangkok, right, you can use this as well, right? So the motorbike that you can go anywhere. So they have the QR code on the name tag, right? And then you can scan. And but what surprised me is that this is not only kind of like Thailand only like thing that we use only in the country, but this idea sparked the idea for other country, for example, Singapore. So after like Thailand launched it for a few years, like Singapore also invent something we call Pay Now, right? They call Pay Now, and then again, people in Singapore be able to transfer the money with no fee, right? And after that, our government also super smart to kind of like join hand, right? Say, hey, now Thai people be able to transfer the money to Singapore for free, right? That's already happened like 2 years ago. And after like other countries seeing this, they say, okay, Hong Kong want to do that too. So nowadays, we can use like our payment PalmPay, working with like the FPS in Hong Kong. So that's how like digital adoption is getting faster and faster in our country and our region. Another case study is also like the e-commerce, right? So Lazada, which bought by Alibaba, and also Shopee from C Group, which listed in Nasdaq, right? So they they're competing each other for a long time, and then the third rival come in, like TikTok, right? So now like small, like some of them changing their shopping behavior, and it's so easy because even myself, right? So I turn on my TikTok, I kind of like swipe. And then, wow, this is so cheap. How they can do this? I try to buy within a single click. And even like the speed that I can order is even faster than those Shopee and Lazada did in the past. So that's very fascinating. You see, if you come to Bangkok, because it's location based, right? You come to Bangkok, swipe your TikTok, you see people like 4 a.m. in the morning still shopping, or still kind of like live selling. In a very early morning, so 24/7. So that's what's happening right now. And the third third driver, is also about kind of like the growing wealth, of the younger generation, right? Because 30% of online spender are high value user. So it's meaning that if you are the like office worker, white collar, you have more power of spending. then this group of people is getting bigger and bigger. Yeah, so like this chart also show that if you compare like Thailand, Southeast Asia, and also India, right? So the growing working population is also kind of like growth rate is also higher compared to other countries where, let's say in the EU, the growing working population is less, right? And that group, people like high value user tend to be high spender across multiple categories. So that's kind of like the driver that I think is changing the region, like making the region is faster growing. But it's but not only the driver. If you're looking at the challenges, right, that the region is are facing right now. Yeah, so I think when you come to Southeast Asia, yeah, even though we say we have 600 million, 700 million people, right? Yeah, some people say this is fragmented market because unlike EU, that you have one law, you have like one union that free goods transfer. Free capital flow, right? And also like both the capital and also human capital. In Southeast Asia, even though we are ASEAN, but we're not getting there yet in terms of like, if I having Thai passport, I cannot work in Singapore for a year without visa, right? So that is not kind of like the one single ASEAN just yet. Yeah, so that's why the first challenges that we have right now is that yeah, we have more than 1,500 ethnic group, right, and also 1,000 spoken languages and dialects, right? So that's a lot. Yeah, and that's mean it's kind of like fragmented. So like the very high cultural diversity in our region. Apart from that, right, we also have the problem of challenge on the education. Yeah, probably except Singapore. Yeah, but then the rest of the ASEAN country, I think still like improving on that. Right? So if you're looking at like the PISA score, which is measuring the score of the student, right? So 1 out of 8, it just ranked top performance. The rest is still getting there. Yeah, and yeah, if you're looking at this chart, right? So Singapore kind of like tops the chart. Yeah, in terms of like the PISA score. Yeah, and in the mid group, like the Vietnam, Brunei, and Malaysia, they're doing well. Yeah, and then also the laggard group, and then yeah, I'm not so proud about Thailand just yet. Yeah, so yeah, we're not doing that well in terms of like the score, right? And we need to improve our educational system, which is long-term investment. Yeah, we need the leaders that be able to understand this and then invest in the education long term. And and once we're talking about education, right? The next thing that's coming is that if education in the country is not that well, so you might going abroad and then study abroad, right? And then once you study abroad, you get a job opportunity more, and then you're not coming back to help your own country, right? So that's kind of like the domino effect from this education problem, right? So that's why you see the country that is the lower in the chart of PISA score, yeah, probably they get higher human flight, which means yeah, those people are study outside the country or even brain drain, yeah, to other country, right? Yeah, so and you see as Singapore tops the chart in the PISA score, so their people tend to be in their own country. So that's about the people. So this picture, I like it because I love to call this the sea turtle, right? Sea is like SEAC, is like Southeast Asia, and turtle means many of us who are coming from Southeast Asia. One day, we believe that many people are gonna come home, right? And then help building the economy in our own countries. Last but not least, on the challenges that we face is that I think like Southeast Asia, it's and also ASEAN, as I mentioned, is fragmented. So the business practices is also different, like individualism, we as collectivism, right? So we think as a group more. So most of the time, the decision coming from the top rather than consensus, like everybody, right? And And most of the time, like you need to know, people say you need to know who, right? Not only know how. Yeah, and then you can get the work done over there. And at the end, respect also is still there. You need to pay respect to the senior people, listen to them, which is a great culture. I love that. Yeah, but at the same time, yeah, how to turn that not
With our hand and roll that way.
and be able to have like the more senior people that get respect, more open up, right? And then getting the new idea from the newer generation to change the things that never been done before. And yeah, and then let's touch a bit on the opportunity. Yeah, for after we see the driver, the challenges, there's the regions facing right now. What are the opportunity that I see, right? So there are three opportunity that I think Southeast Asia is the place to be right now. Yeah, so the first, right, it's as mentioned, the fragment market, right? So if you want to do anything in Southeast Asia, first is the localization is also the key, right? You need to understand each market really well. If you do well in Thailand, doesn't mean you do well in Singapore. If you do well in Singapore, probably not the same in Indonesia. Right? So that's something that you should be consider when you want to expand your business to Southeast Asia. Even though we are like a growing number of startup, like 4,000 startup, like last year, right? We have couple unicorn, couple decacorn, altogether like 50 of them. Yeah, and these are the sector that is growing in Southeast Asia. Yeah, ranging from e-commerce, fintech, which is already there. Yeah, and then we're looking at the renewable, smart city, ag tech, kind of like the new deep tech. Yeah, that is coming up. And these are some of the unicorn in the region, and also some decacorn who listed in the U.S. market as well, like C Group and also Grab. Yeah, they're listed in the U.S. Yeah, lucky that I mean, like we have two unicorn. Yeah, from Thailand today. I mean, like the Flash Express, which is a logistic company. Yeah, value over $1 billion right now. We have like the Sam Tanskun over there. He also investor of the unicorn, my good friend, and also like the Asset Money, yeah, from Thailand, which is the fintech company. Yeah, and then this is an example, right? That why the Grab and Uber things. This is a couple of years back, right? But at the end, Uber pull out of Southeast Asia and takes take some let Grab take it away, right? And then Uber snatch some share from Grab, right? So that's a good deal that it did. But then it's mean like localization is also the key, yeah. Because if you cannot localize much enough, yeah, it's going to be hard to compete with the local flavor. Another example, right? So we'll be talking about the e-commerce. That's why kind of like Amazon tried to be there in Southeast Asia as well. But then at the end, Lazada and Shopee, yeah, they took over the market. Yeah, so that's kind of like how localization is important for Southeast Asia. And not only the localization, but also the collaboration. I think one of the key things in Southeast Asia, if you come alone, it's going to be very hard. If you have the partner, especially like local partner, local corporate, which has the huge customer base, but that's also helping a lot. Yeah, so that you don't need to start like from scratch yourself. For example, right? So we bring I have a very fortunate. We bring our portfolio like Quinn, yeah, QVAN based in Menlo Park nearby, right? So Quinn is doing the menstrual pad for women. So women doesn't need to draw the blood from the hospital anymore. We just use the blood from the menstrual pad, and then you can like do this many screening tests, including the HPV test. And this is they just got world first FDA approval in the US a couple of weeks back. And yeah, so we met the company in 2018. Yeah, we brought this company to our conference, setting them up to meet with a huge hospital over there called BDMS Group. Yeah, this is the second largest hospital group in the world by profit, only after United Healthcare. They signed a deal together 6 months afterward. So the Quinn got Thai FDA approved. And now they start commercialization together. So this is how kind of like I thought it's a good way if you have the local partner, they'll be able to help speed up things, like in the way that you never imagined. That's the first opportunity in terms of localization, like collaboration, right? Not doing that alone in Southeast Asia. The second part, it's second opportunity is also about the new S-curve, the deep tech, right? So that already coming. We're talking the new trend about AI, semiconductor, EV. I think Southeast Asia get the benefit from political challenges, right? So now that's why now, we got many investment, foreign direct investment from many countries that want to set up the manufacturing base here in Southeast Asia. So like the country like Singapore just launched their national plan for AI, right? So that's very like interesting that they now is the version 2.0 already. They launched the first version 1.0 in 2019, and then now they launched the 2.0, so they have the long-term vision to become the hub of AI for the region. Philippines, right? Also like bet on the multiple data center, many investment on data center also coming to Philippines, right? And definitely like Jensen Huang, like from NVIDIA, right? So have the big news in Vietnam, like meeting the Prime Minister of Vietnam, and then they're gonna set up the base manufacturing also in Vietnam as well, right? So this is the big news. And also like Thailand, we also get a lot of investment from the EV, like the brand from China, like Chang'an, BYD, also setting up the manufacturing hub in Thailand already. So almost 30 brands, like the EV brand, that try to setting up the EV manufacturing hub in Thailand. So you see like these kind of like the investment opportunity also coming to the region. And last but not least, I think this is something that personally very like interesting to me, which is the climate tech and sustainability. Because if you're looking at like the landscape for Southeast Asia, so we are the fourth largest energy consumption in the world. And many countries in Southeast Asia already set our net zero goal, right? 9 out of 10, we set the net zero goal already. So why, right? Because World Bank said that Southeast Asia is one of the most vulnerable region about sea level rise, drought, right? Kind of like the flood that gonna happen in our region. So that's not the good news. But I think if we do nothing, so we're gonna have the big trouble, because ASEAN together we emit around 7% of the world's carbon emission. So that's a lot, in only one region, but almost 10%, right? So but on the flip side, that's also the big opportunity. Because I just came back from like Sweden. So those Scandinavian country, they've been trying to reduce the carbon emission sustainability for 40 years, right? So then we just start. So then there's tons of opportunity. It's like gold digging. Because now we emit a lot, so we be able to reduce a lot, and reduce a lot mean a lot of carbon credit as well. So that's might be like a big opportunity for many people who do kind of like climate tech, like or sustainability tech. So we don't want our beach to be like this at all. And like you see, like and this started coming out more and more. Just like a few weeks back. So in 1 week, we have kind of like 12 incidents of like the sustainability disaster, right, related. So this means we are in the very critical moment that we need to change like this. If we don't change this, our region is not going to be surviving. So this depict the picture that I mentioned was Southeast Asia. We emit quite a lot of the like carbon emission until today. And this is how each country is trying to commit themselves to the net zero goal. I want to push and encourage like Thai government also like try to push the goal even faster a bit. Yeah, because other country, most of us set target as 2050. Yeah, like the many nations in the world like set the goal at 2030, right? Yeah, but then we think we cannot do that that fast, so we push it to 50, and Thailand put it at 65, which is a little bit slow. Yeah, we need to pushing it more. And that's what I think. If we be able to turn this right from the crisis into the opportunity, to be able to help not only help the country but also be able to turn it to the business. Yeah, that's going to be the huge impact. Yeah, for Southeast Asia. Yeah, so that's why like the keyword that I like to leave with you guys today is what I call sustainability. It's sustainability and innovation together. Yeah, what I believe is that only innovation alone is not together with sustainability, it's gonna change the world. Because why, right? Because let's take the example of these two words, right? Sustainability and innovation. Yeah. So why we still not using kind of like the glass bottle at the office? Everybody, yeah, like only some of us does, right? Yeah. So because the plastic bottle is still cheaper. Yeah. And but how we gonna make like the glass bottle cheaper? If the glass bottle is cheaper, everybody gonna buy the glass bottle, right? And reuse it. But the thing is, we only be able to do that if we use innovation, if we use technology. Yeah, we be able to lower the cost, make it more efficient, so that people be able to buy more, right? And then the world gonna be the better place. So that's what I believe that sustainability is the answer, for our next generation. And I want to kind of like sharing the landscape of sustainability a bit, that how I see the world that we live in, gonna change, right? In the past, we're talking about this, right? Everybody think about the triple bottom line. Yeah, when we do the business, we need to think about the people, planet, and profit, right? So these three things need to happen. So that is the world gonna be better. Yeah, but now I think this is not enough anymore, right? So because the world gonna change from 3P, and we're looking for 3R, right? Yeah, so the 3R is meaning that first the people, right? After the COVID, we're not talking only the people, but we need more resilient people, right? We need to teach them how to be more resilient, to the climate change, climate adaptation, so that they can cope with all the changes that's gonna happen. And then the planet as well. So the planet, we don't think about, okay, we're not gonna use the plastic, but that's not enough anymore. So because we're gonna emit less carbon, but we want to reduce carbon as well, right? So it means we might need to plant more tree. We need to regenerate the things, right? So that if we plant more tree, then the trees can capture more carbon dioxide. So they reduce all the carbon in the world, right? And last but not least, I think is the profit. We're not talking about the profit anymore. We're talking about it's not the profit that you generate, but also the responsibility for the world. What is your responsibility? What is the like individual responsibility, the team responsibility, the organization, and the country responsibility, right? For the world. And so that's going to be the shifting paradigm, for sustainability. Yeah, because at the end, right, it's about we're not doing this for ourselves. Probably we're doing this for the next generation, right? That going to come. So I give the talk at my smaller conference coming up, and then I brought my son to the stage as well, and then to encourage everybody that hey, this is we're doing this not only for ourselves, but we're doing this for our next generation. Yeah, and with that, right, I want to leave you guys with the keyword of sustainability. Yeah, because sustainability, I hope it to be the next ASEAN dream. Yeah, for everyone. Thank you.
So I take the privilege of being the host to ask a couple of questions up front. First of all, with regard to the kind of, recognizing that you've got great cultural diversity inside Southeast Asia. How do you deal with reaching out over these borders, cultural borders or political borders and so forth? How do you have a Southeast Asia vision?
Yeah, I think first thing first, right? So
Yeah,
in order to understand the culture really well, I think you need to be there. Yeah, you need to talk to the people. You need to kind of like, let's say, for example, I mean, at once, I want to expand my business to Vietnam, right? And then, like without going to Vietnam, we cannot do that. So I flew to Vietnam multiple times,
yeah,
and then meeting the people who are in the same industry. We are talking to them to get their
yeah,
understanding about the landscape. But then once we understand that, I decide not to go, right? Because
Okay.
we know that it might not fit with our business model. That's why I mentioned the market is so fragmented.
yeah.
The things that you do well in one country, you might not do well in that in another country.
Might not fit.
Yeah. For example, like for me, right, at that time I run the advertising firm. Right? So then, in Thailand, we usually make the contract with the brand, around like 1 year or 2 years, to run everything for the brand, right? When going to Vietnam, what I surprised is that they said no, there's no such a thing. Yeah, because in Vietnam, it's project by project.
Yeah.
Even though you try to do super well in one project, you might not get another.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like very tough competition.
Okay.
So that's example like why you need to be there to understand the local, and talk to the people.
Okay. So my next question, last week I gave an overview where I talked about an innovation system and especially a startup ecosystem working on flow of people, flow of capital, and flow of knowledge into new combinations. Okay. So with regard to the flow of people, how do people see entrepreneurship? And recognizing it's going to be different country by country, but is there a social kind of, is it not just socially acceptable, but are people hungry to have more entrepreneurs in the economy?
I think if you take Thailand example, right?
Yeah.
I think we are kind of like in the verge of popping up, which
Yeah.
means if you're looking at the history, Thailand startup scene just started around 10 years ago.
Okay.
It's just like very new, very young, like ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
And these 10 years ago, we start to see some startup get funding.
Yeah.
They grow from Series C to Series A, Series A to Series B, right?
Yeah.
And then the peak of the funding, I think, is around kind of like 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, which and then COVID.
Well, 2021 was a huge spike in funding everywhere, right? And
Right.
we're coming down off that now.
Right, and then that's why for me, we need to see kind of like the success case. I usually like take this example, right? In the US, you see kind of like many people, they build a unicorn after unicorn. Right? So let's say one example is like Jack Dorsey, who on Twitter,
Yeah.
and then now he's the on Square as well.
Right.
He used to be CEO of 2 publicly listed company.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I often kid the startup in Thailand say, if your neighborhood is like Jack Dorsey, you might be able to say, oh, this is my neighbor. He can do it, so I can do it too, right?
Yeah.
So that we don't have such a case study just yet. The people
There's not enough where you could say of the people that live on the street, 3 of them have just started new companies. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Yeah. So that's so I think we are waiting for the role model, to happen, and then people start to believe, wow, they can do it too. This is inspire, right? Yeah. So
So kind of related to that is the flow of money. Do you see a good balance between the availability of venture capital and possible investments, or is there not enough venture capital?
I think it's depending on stage by stage, right? And also if you're looking at Southeast Asia, like ASEAN, 70% of the funding, in the whole region going to Singapore and Indonesia in the past few years, right? Because Singapore, English speaking,
Well,
is doing
Indonesia is
business.
a huge market.
Right. And then Indonesia, because the big market, right? But that's kind of like the big picture.
Uh-huh,
If you take example of Thailand, that's a little bit different.
uh-huh,
Because in Thailand, the market dominated by CVC, corporate venture capital.
yeah,
Yeah, so we have around like 30, 50 CVC,
yeah,
and then only 5 VC. Right, so that's how the difference between the market and the stage, right? Because CVC, they're not gonna fund the seed stage, right? They want to
well,
fund.
the thing about CVC is, of course, the companies have some sort of strategic interest. Either they want to grow a future business partner, or they want to keep somebody out of, they want to make sure they have some amount of control over what happens. I see an awful lot of B2C, which is natural because of the increase in wealth and just, the emergence of the middle class in most of the ASEAN countries. But of course, a lot of corporate venture capital is going to kind of keep B2B companies in a niche in their supply chain. So that actually has a plus in that they get some money, but a minus in that it may not help them grow as much as they could grow.
Yeah, and another point is, I think right now, like in Thailand specifically, I think we lack of kind of like the early stage fund. Yeah, yeah, because
So seed, really, first.
seed, yeah. So because in the past there'd been like couple like incubator, accelerator, right?
Yeah.
But then now it's less and less. Yeah, the government
Oh,
funding
really,
is not
this
enough.
system is kind of really 10 years old or so, right?
Right.
Okay, that's even more recent than the system that has kind of evolved in Japan. Because what I'm starting to see in Japan is I'm finally starting to see serial entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs who become successful and then become investors. I think that was a huge thing that happened there maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Is it starting to look like that in Southeast Asia? Well, there are a few people like, Fernandez that started AirAsia, right, back in the days when he was doing well. But are you starting to see that kind of experienced entrepreneurs moving into the investment side?
I think every market has that, right? But then for us, I don't think it's a lot.
Okay,
Yeah, it's a lot just yet.
okay,
In Japan, I think my view is that that's like many people done that like what you mentioned, but still it's kind of like very Japan focused,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Let's open the floor to questions. Let us know what your question is and feel free to ask away. Go ahead.
I guess one of the questions I'm curious about is the government's relationship with the private sector as well as foreign businesses. I know that probably depending on which country within Southeast Asia, it varies a lot, but would love to kind of get your understanding of it and how that impacts entrepreneurship and investors in that region.
Yeah, I think the government plays a very pivotal role, in doing that because they are the one who kind of like looking at the policy, right? And the policy, I think, let's say in Singapore, are probably more flexible. Yeah, it is a big business, as you know, right? And then they also like are supporting the startup in multiple ways. For example, giving the grants, giving the kind of like smart visa, like for the entrepreneur to like stay like a year or two. Right, so that's kind of like help getting started easier. There was a report launched by Deloitte, a couple months back, sharing about coming back to Thailand, right? So that the Thai government also tried to pushing that in the past few years. We see the very good sign. Yeah, they kind of like changing the law. Like for example, in the past. We cannot do kind of like the stock vesting. Now the thing's gonna change very soon, right? So so that's kind of like the law that need to be changed in our region. I think one thing that the government need to help out is what we call regulatory guillotine, like which mean kill the old law, right? That because let's say Silicon Valley, like Delaware C Corp, I mean like the law been there forever, right? And it hasn't changed much, which is very stabilized. So people, lawyer understand that truly. So that's very important for us. Yeah, we keep issuing. I mean, like for Thailand, for example, like we keep issuing the new law because we want to change, right? But then that's not enough if you not be able to kill the old law, because sometimes like the lawyer doesn't get like how many there's so many law that need to kind of like read through before deciding one thing. So I think that what we call electronic guillotine, that they need to kill a couple laws to make before you make the new law, to make things easier. So I think and that's one thing for Thailand, right? Another thing is for the funding. So take Singapore example, our great neighborhood, right? So they have the funding quite a lot for the startup. Like from C stage, especially like nowadays,
Government money.
like government money,
Yeah.
like deep tech. You can ask for kind of money matching fund. That when you get the money from venture capital, the government will match it double. For example, like for your company, so the investor are also very happy because it's look like their money worth double, right? Yeah, because the government, some of the government is looking at that as a grant. So not that cheap, right? So which mean the investor get the same amount of equity and spend only half, like only invest half, right, of the money, because government invest another half, for example. Yeah, in Thailand specifically, I think we need to improve that a bit, because the report from Deloitte say while Singapore the government grant can be and a startup what they need in the C stage probably $500,000 like US to during the C stage or pre-C stage, right? But Thai government be able to give away probably 50 or 100, which is a lot for our GDP per capita. Yeah, that's a lot. But then still, it might not be enough to kind of like let them grinding through the valley of death. Before they be able to raise the money from outside.
Thank you. Kid, what's the role of foreign venture investment money in Southeast Asia? Has much started to come in from the US? What about from China?
Yeah, I think we see more and more like the foreign investment coming in. Let's say, for example, we have the fund like Sequoia, like the Lightspeed, like the top venture capitalists, also be there and investing in the region. And in China, I think it's the same. I mean, they already start coming.
Has the Belt and Road Initiative done anything outside of just big infrastructure projects? Are they trying to get into this sort of innovation support?
I mean, for now, I think they're trying to kind of like connect the people, especially like influential people, through kind of like the bilateral, multilateral, like the agreement or partnership, from the government, from the private sector, from Chamber of Commerce. That's I think that's what or even from education. There's one program that very popular for a couple of leaders, which I have a chance to join as well. They call the Belt and Road EMBA program. With
The Belt and Road EMBA program. Okay.
that's initiated by President Xi. With Tsinghua University. So they invite kind of like all the unicorn in Southeast Asia to join the program, for example. So I think that's how I think they try to build.
Kind of a follow-up questions coming in from Zoom. Pascal from Thailand asks, funding is critical, sure, but what else is missing in the Thailand ecosystem to boost innovation success?
Yeah, I think funding is important. But like the first thing, right? I think that the talent. We did discuss about the C total coming back home. I think that the talent is still very, very important. How we be able to have kind of like those who graduate from the US, from Europe, and then coming back and do something that is meaningful, right? I always say we don't need to.
That would be kind of people coming back as entrepreneurs. What about the people to work in the startup companies as they're growing? How's that?
I think that's the same, right? Because if they're not coming back to build their own, right? They might ask, like, let's say one of my friends who work here, right? So they ask, kid, if I come back, what should I do? Now I get paid this much. And
Yeah.
then, is there any job that I,
Yeah.
like, that I can, get in Thailand? I said, probably you need to become CEO of the bank to get that salary. So that's kind of like the different, right?
Of course, then again, you can buy a lot more in Thailand for less money
Right,
too.
right. So that's something that I think we need to change, right?
Yeah.
So if you're looking at kind of like the money perspective alone, that might not be enough. But if you want to build something new, let's say like sustainability or
Yeah.
the new company, startup company, I think that might work.
How's market access? What about access for a startup company just getting out of the market? Are people generally willing to buy something from you they haven't heard before?
Yeah, I think
B2C markets. Yeah.
right. For B2C, I think people, people, the harder people willing to try, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then how to get the word out? That's also kind of like because we have a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And then we need to compete in, let's say, the ads. Yeah, so I think that's not super easy if you don't have zero budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but if you do B2B, yeah, the corporate also, I think the corporate also willing to try the new things.
Okay. I think I saw your hand. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Kit. Thanks for your presentation. So I grew up here. I went out to Southeast Asia. I built 3 startups in technology, spent 20 years, came back. I'm on the board of Malaysia's government MDEC for 6 years as a first foreigner.
Wow.
So I think the problem I see, you stated that education, it's subpar, it's not world class. You got the brain drain problems. And then most of the startups are essentially building B2C applications rather than deep tech. Well, there's no talent to build deep tech at all. So I think and then every Asian country is trying to replicate Silicon Valley. And then they waste, I'll use the word waste, billions. And then you also point out that you're waiting for a success story to come so everybody sort of can see them as a role model. Rather than government wasting billions of dollars, I think they should really just focus on what Silicon Valley has done really well. And I say US education is also not very good, especially at a K-12 level. What makes Silicon Valley work is ability to attract global brain talent. So government should stop wasting billions and then put that money to attract, especially Thai or other Southeast Asian people in Silicon Valley to go back, right? If you can hire a Silicon Valley talent, the government will match you $1 to $1. The problem is they won't go back because they're making $200,000, $300,000 here. They get an offer for $60,000, $80,000, they can't go. So rather than wasting billions on various stupid programs that never work, I say, I'll help you hire the people. Then you suck the talents back. You can compete against Singapore because they're hijacking everything in Southeast Asia. And maybe there's an opportunity. So that's just my personal comment. I'm sitting on the board approving all these stupid programs that never go anywhere. Meanwhile, there's just lack of talent. And it takes 50 years to fix their education system, especially the public schools. So these are just my comments. What do you think?
Actually, thank you very much for your comment. I appreciate that, and we take it. That's really good points, I think. A few years ago in this very same series, we had Ed Rubesh, who at Chamber of Commerce University in Bangkok. And Ed comes in and says, the Silicon Valley ecosystem is not very innovative in the way it does innovation. We're doing basically the same thing for the last 30 years. And you really have to think of a different way in Southeast Asia to grow the system. And I think he has a lot of comments, but how can we solve this talent issue?
Yeah, no, I mean, thanks so much for, I really appreciate that. I think that's so true. And I want to confirm one thing that we also the grant receiver from MDEC as well, and then we're doing well. Yeah, so, and, I think to your point, right? So I totally agree that if we be able to use the government money more wisely, they're gonna help improve many things because sometimes like the government need to understand their position. Sometimes they not need to do something the same way that we try to do that thing. For example, I think one thing that other countries doing well and then Thailand about to do is like matching fund, right? So rather than set up the government fund to invest in a startup and help the ecosystem, probably we should look at how the government can match the fund with the top VC or CVC in the country. And so and then once the startup be able to get that, probably they'll be able to hire somebody from the Valley back, right? So that's something that I totally agree.
So have a kind of follow-up question here from Zoom. So Yun asks, which government in SEA is most friendly and efficient, in your opinion, in terms of attracting foreign investment or talent? Who's doing it better than anybody else?
Yeah, I'll be very frank. I work with many government, like Singapore, they're doing very well.
Yeah, okay, but
Yes.
Singapore, average income per person is over $70,000, right?
Right.
I mean, it's higher than the United States. So, yeah, that's kind of outside Singapore.
Wow, that's a tough question, I think. Outside Singapore,
Yeah,
yeah, because I think the question is like, if not Singapore,
yeah,
other countries, why and which kind of like industry that they want to focusing on,
yeah,
and what kind of talent that they want to attract, right?
Yeah.
They need to be very clear strategy, which I think, I don't, see super clear strategy in each countries in Southeast Asia.
yeah.
When compared to the level that Singapore is doing.
Yeah,
So that's what I like to feedback to all the government.
okay. I saw your hand. Go ahead, you first.
Juliet, so I saw on your website you mentioned about the accelerator program, right? So I'm currently founding a deep tech company. So what's the framework of once my startup join your program? So you're going to provide any founding opportunities or matching any experts in the field or matching with any corporates in the field?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think what we try to differentiate from the other incubator accelerator, right, is we want to help a startup to tap into the global the regional network of corporate that we're working with, because our business model is like we like consulting firm. We provide the network, the understanding in deep tech, sourcing for the global startup technology. To the corporate, right? But then what we get in return is the deep knowledge for the problem statement that all the corporate have at the moment. Then we be able to let's say we run incubator program, we be able to introduce the startup that be able to solve those pain points to the corporate very precisely. Yeah, so that's and then we also encourage the pilot, the pilot project, to be initiated during the program. So that's the difference.
So do you with any governmental entities, for example, if they provide any funding like grants in particular sustainability area, do you kind of match those startups with those governmental entities?
It's the same, yeah. We're working with multiple government like Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Thailand, right? You name it, right? So then, if you pick the country that you want to be land, right? So then we can connect you with the right stakeholders in those countries, and then those government be able to provide the funding grants, for especially deep tech startup, in those countries.
Do you ask?
Let me follow up and
sure.
ask about, tell us a little bit about the big conference that you're going to do in September. What are the dates? How many people do you expect? We talked a little bit about this before we started the program, but.
Right, yeah, thanks, yeah. So for me, right, for us, we don't think ourselves as consulting firm or the venture capitalist, but we thought we are the ecosystem builder. Yeah, we want to be the bridge between the global to Southeast Asia. So that's why and we not aim to set up just running the conference for the sake of running conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we thought, okay, if we be able to be the ecosystem builder, we need to be the one who connect everybody together. Every year we host a conference we call Corporate Innovation Summit, as it name, right? Because our network, our value proposition is the corporate network, in the region. So we bring in this year targeting at 4,000 CEO C-suite, from 40 countries, and that going to be held in September, this year, in Bangkok. Yeah, so that's going to be the place that startup like deep tech, like
And this is 2 days, right? Or something like that, 2 or 3?
yeah, our conference is 2 days, but this year very special. We're gonna run it as a festival.
Okay,
We're not gonna run it alone. So our batch gonna enable the attendees to join other event as well that coincide in the same week.
okay, okay.
So that's-
Now, it's getting to be some years since I was there, but it was a really impressive event.
All right, thanks so much. And yeah, we are very lucky to get Professor Dasher as a keynote speaker in our first year.
Early on, yeah, the first one. I saw your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, my name is Derek, and I also advise the student of Professor Dasher and the founder here. So my question is, so based on the differentiated LP structure of the Thailand's ecosystem, I wonder how does that, to some degrees, affect the investment decisions of the venture capital firms? And I also wonder specifically at Thailand, so are they look for, in the future, probably like IPOs at SGX, like Singapore Exchange, or broadly at NASDAQ, or even try, for example, Hong Kong Exchange. So how does that kind of, broader vision of the capital market integrates with the ecosystem in Thailand? And that's 2 questions I have. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the second question, I think, as mentioned, so we don't have the role model like that just yet, right? So that is hard to kind of say if they're going to want to go to NASDAQ or to Dow Jones, right? So yeah, but what I see in the next year or two, I'm pretty sure that the startup in Thailand going to be able to do the IPO at least in the Thai Stock Exchange. Yeah, and why is that, right? One fact is that the liquidity in Thai Stock Exchange is #1 in ASEAN. Yeah, even more than SGX. Yeah, because if you're looking at the demographic, right? So the demographic, the driver is more retail market. Yeah, in Singapore, it's more institutional. Less people, only 5 million, 6 million, right? So then when you have more retail, it's going to be more liquidity. Yeah, so that's why, I think going public in a Thai Stock Exchange is not a bad deal at all, and it's also the good exit. Yeah, because right now, I mean, in the past we are a very brick and mortar country, right? When you are a tech company, the market give a lot of value for you. Let's say I see many tech company going IPO in Thailand. They get the price per earning ratio, PE ratio, kind of like 50 to 100, which is a lot. Yeah, so that's how the market give you value for a tech company.
I saw another hand over here. If not, I've got a kind of comment from, okay, I'll get you in a second. Let me do this from Zoom first. Because this person, Z, is asking about the whole sustainability side. So I'm shortening this down a little bit. How is Southeast Asia working with bodies like CDP, formerly known as the Carbon Disclosure Project, and the UN and Net Zero Alliances, Paris Agreement Alliances, and so forth, to have a set of targets for carbon reduction and so forth that really fit the region? Without this, the companies in SEA might be seen as slow, right, based on globally agreed targets of 2050 or sooner, and miss out on capital allocation when being looked at from climate risk lens.
Wow, that's a great question, and also very deep, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, broadly, I think first thing first, right? So the education, the knowledge about sustainability, and also what you mentioned about the standard and practices. Yeah, so I think it's very, very new to many people. When I say we set the target of net zero for each country,
Yeah,
it's kind of like those people come to the COP conference, right?
yeah,
Yeah, it's a COP, and then pledge their kind of like the goal, right? And then
Yeah.
sign the agreement. So that's kind of like the things that the country level they
Yeah.
do. Yeah, in Thailand, I think we have some development on that. Yeah, because I think this year now we do the hearing of the new law. They're gonna
Yeah.
come out. Yeah, we call the global warming law.
okay,
Yeah, and then so it's meaning that after the law is passed, right? So we're gonna have the carbon tax that's
okay,
coming up. Yeah, so that's something that we in the country like is developing. But in terms of like the deep like CDP or STBI like science-based target in Thailand right now, if you're looking at the SME,
yeah,
they're only 13, 1-3. We're a 13 company that commit SBTI target.
okay, that committed to those targets, yeah.
It's a science-based target, which is
Yeah, I was giving the Japanese trouble because I think something like 50% have not committed, 50% of the
Right.
companies, yeah,
that's I think it's very early
Yeah.
early days
yeah.
for us.
So which companies involved in international supply chains, like say auto parts industry, that kind of thing, is the pressure elsewhere to report on scope 3 emissions and that kind of stuff? Is it filtering into Thailand?
Definitely, yeah, because we are like the exporting country, right? So we will be pushed because let's say if you're like doing the tire and send to the auto manufacturer brand, right? So then they're gonna and then they need net zero. They need to ask for the source, the carbon footprint,
Yeah,
for the tire that you make in Thailand.
yeah,
Definitely. So I think we got pushed by our buyer,
okay,
right? And then that's why we need to comply. And like very interesting fact again, like Thailand company, yeah, we are the world's #1 countries that we have the most company get recognized on Dow Jones Sustainability Index.
wow.
Yeah, so because we export a lot, right? So then
Yeah.
that's why, yeah, like Thailand is
So
number
they have to
one.
be there, yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Rob. Well, I organize a lot of tech and venture capital events and Silicon Valley. We're actually doing some stuff with Commonwealth Club on sustainability for Climate Tech Week. That population of Southeast Asia is roughly twice the population of the US. It's like 666 million, something like that. Biggest problem is consumption. And now anyone in the global South, not just Southeast Asia, they can see all the lifestyles of the rich and famous or the middle class in the US, and they aspire to these lifestyles. That's not sustainable. So how do you capture that desire to live like a middle class American for billions of people around the world? And yet you promote development, that yet you want to be sustainable because they're sort of contradictory.
I think for me, I think like we need to start from ourselves, right? I mean, like as an example, yeah. For me, I mean, I try to kind of like cut down, kind of like eating stuff that is, let's say, if I want to eat, yeah, like 3 days a week, probably shorten it like 1 day a week, yeah, and then be able to drive EV car. Right, so emit less carbon, and then like changing, reduce become the office become paperless. Yeah, so I think we first thing that we need to be the example for other people to follow. Yeah, otherwise, yeah, if we keep saying we want to be sustainable and we don't do it ourselves, so that's going to be so hard for people to do, right?
Let me also kind of ask a follow-up question on that. With the kind of rapid economic growth, so 4.6% across Southeast Asia, something like this, faster than the world. Is inequality increasing? Is that a concern? Where, you're talking about the people who are becoming wealthy and the lifestyles of the rich and famous and so forth. Is that being looked at in a negative way? And we're starting to beat up our superstar entrepreneurs now.
Yeah, I think we need to admit that we don't have the ways to solve those things systematically yet.
Yeah,
Because as a middle class, they're growing, they want to have more or consume more, right? So I think that I think we're not at the stage to let's say I just came back from World Economic Forum
yeah,
in
Right.
January, right? And then what I saw, oh wow, the global agenda. Let's say when we're talking about kind of like the AI. Yeah, people on the stage gonna talk not only AI, but also the energy to power AI, right? Where it's coming
Yeah,
from?
right.
Is that renewable? Yeah, so that's so when the global scene, right? I don't want to say like first world kind of like the problem, right? But then when the world see these problem, they're looking at that from the multiple angle.
Right.
But for us, I mean, like coming from Southeast Asia, probably we need to think about our own people. They don't have enough to eat yet. Yeah, we still need to kind of like having the basic life support for them, right? So then that thing is I think it's still debatable in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now we need to improve their lives first. Yeah, so that's what I feel.
So we're about out of time for this session. Steve, did you have a question?
I did.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll make it short. Dr. Kidd, first, thank you for coming and doing this. This is kind of circling back to a comment that Dr. Dasher brought up earlier. So the last decade, we've seen a lot of news concerning extraterritorial investments in the ASEAN countries, specifically China with One Belt, One Road initiative, as well as Japan with the official development assistance. Now, those programs have been largely focused on infrastructure development, but where do you see, extraterritorial government assistance moving towards and investing in different sectors within ASEAN? Part one, and then part two, if you have the time, have you noticed any negatives towards entrepreneurship and or the increasing market within Southeast Asia in concerns to the growing regional tension surrounding the South China Sea?
Wow, that's a great question. I think the first question, I think I still believe that they're not gonna funding us to do more infrastructure project, but probably like the carbon reduction project, the sustainability project. That's something that I think I see more and more like case study. For example, ADB, right? Asian Development Bank. They're also setting up the VC fund that's focusing on sustainability in the region. Yeah, so that's one of the example that I see that the big bank or the outside funder, gonna do more. I don't have any comment on the second question much. I mean, like because there's still not super clear. Yeah, no answer. Yeah, and then the tension is there. Yeah, but then it's I think we see kind of like other region like having a more challenging situation right now. For example, like Red Sea, right? So that's what I feel, and it's less of the topic of discussion in our region for now.
Okay, thank you, Kid. So we're about out of time. For those of you who are here in person, we've got some refreshments outside and some networking time outside that side of the auditorium. And we will have another panel discussion that's in person only about navigating your ventures through Southeast Asia. That will happen from 7 o'clock. So first of all, please join me in thanking Kid for a great